Hey everyone, welcome back to another Safari Ltd review. Today we'll be taking a look at a slightly older figure from them. It's their 2015 Yutyrannus. I've had a few people request that I review this figure ever since I started the channel, so since I don't really have much new stuff to review right now, I thought this would be a perfect time to talk about this cool little feathered figure from Safari. Yutyrannus is a pretty cool and interesting dinosaur. It is the largest species of dinosaur discovered with feathers so far. Its name means feather tyrant. It is a type of tyrannosaur. It is from the early Cretaceous period of northeastern China. It is known from three nearly complete specimens, an adult, a subadult, and a juvenile, and all three of those were discovered with feather impressions. So let's start off with a couple quick measurements before we take a closer look at this figure. This Yutyrannus is about 8 inches long from the tip of the snout to the tip of the tail, and just about 3 inches tall to the top of the neck right there. So depending on what paleontologist you talk to, Yutyrannus is estimated to be between 25 and 30 feet long. So with those measurements, that would put this figure somewhere in the 137 scale range to the 145 scale range, depending on which measurement you want to go with. This figure is sculpted in a standard walking pose, and as you can see, this figure is bipedal. It balances perfectly on its 2 feet. You don't have to worry about it being a tripod like some of Safari's older figures. And I have to say, the walking pose, with the closed mouth, looks really nice in this figure. We get a lot of, carnivorous dinosaur figures with their mouths open, constantly screaming, so it is nice and refreshing to see a large carnivore dinosaur sculpted with its mouth shut. I really do like that look, and I have to say the figure does balance really well on those 2 feet. The feet are a little bit oversized, but I have to say on this older figure, the toes aren't as splayed out as some of Safari's newer, theropod dinosaurs. When I get the comparisons, I'll show you what I mean about how, the toes look on these bipedal figures from them. So let's zoom in and take a closer look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with that gorgeous looking head sculpt. Like I said earlier, I love how the mouth is sculpted closed on this figure. It just looks more natural. This is how the animal will look like most of the time in real life, not with its mouth open, constantly screaming like we see on so many other theropod figures. You can see all that beautiful scale detail sculpted in on the head right here. The head, the hands, and the feet are the only parts of the figure that have scale sculpted out. The rest of the figure is just sculpted with that filamentous feathers. You can see the ear canal right here, the nostrils. You can see the teeth sculpted along the side right here. They're painted pretty well. The last two, they missed the paint on it, but not a big deal. You really won't notice that unless you're looking up close on this. I'm sure, these figures are hand painted, so everyone's figure is going to look slightly different than mine. You can see the eyes painted in white with a black pupil. You can see that crest along the top of the snout right here is painted in a very light red color. And looking from the other side, you can see what the head looks like from the other side. Now, when looking at the figure head on, this is something I have noticed with, just get my hands out of the way, most Safari theropod figures, the heads are not asymmetrical. They always seem to be a little bit off. It's really not showing too much up on camera here, but when I look at this figure head on, this nostril is higher. This nostril right here on the left is higher than this one on the right, and they always just look a little bit off center. I've noticed it on their Chinsusaurus, a little bit on their feathered T-Rex, and on their newer Carnotaurus figure. Just the heads do not look symmetrical. I'm not blaming the sculptor at all. I think it might just have something to do with their molding process. But yeah, when you look at some of these theropods head on, the heads are not symmetrical looking. I just kind of find that a little bit distracting. Moving on to the neck and body of this figure, you can see this figure is sculpted completely, almost head to toe in feathers. When the three specimens of Yutyrannus were discovered, those feathers found on the neck, along the arms, on the pelvis, almost to the toes, and along the tails, which, led paleontologists to believe that this entire animal, for the most part, was covered in feathers, and this is the way this figure has been sculpted, unlike the reborn one, which was, partially sculpted in feathers, like they left feathers off on parts of the figure that should have had feathers, but that is a discussion for another day. Right behind the head right here, you can see there's some really nice plumage sculpted in. Those feathers are painted in white with some black dots on there. Going down to the arms, you can see the arm feathers are sculpted in really well. The hands are in that dark gray color, just like the head. They are sculpted with scales on. The claws are painted in black. This coloration of the feathers along the main body right here kind of like this off-white grayish color, and then when you turn the figure over underneath, it is a white coloration. So it's a nice contrast. It looks like a winter coat, like, you know, this animal is stalking its prey in the Arctic. Going down to the legs right here, you can see some nicely sculpted feathers. The hind legs are clearly defined. You can tell there's some muscle underneath those feathers. Going down to the feet, you can see those scales and that gray coloration. The toenails are painted in black, and then you have all those nicely sculpted filamentous feathers going all the way down to the tip of the tail. So all in all, this is a beautifully sculpted Yutyrannus figure. It is really cool, and, you know, this figure is just about $10, and it is definitely worth that price. All right, let's move on with some comparisons. I have some other feathered Tyrannosaurs from other companies that compare to this Yutyrannus. First up is the Collectae Lithronax, and here is the Collectae Juvenile Feathered T-Rex. Let me just get these two out of here, and here it is with the Collectae Deluxe Feathered T-Rex. And speaking of feathered T-Rex, here it is with the amazing Safari Ltd Feathered Rex. And here it is with their new Safari Ltd Chinsaosaurus, which is another Chinese Tyrannosaur. You know, these two figures do not scale with each other. It would have been nice if they did. Yutyrannus is definitely bigger than Chinsaosaurus. Now, this one I want to talk about quickly with the feet. You can see on this Yutyrannus, you know, the feet are just a little bit oversized, but they look much natural looking in this position than, say, you know, some of the newer theropod figures from Safari. You can see that's just the way the toes are sculpted with that splayed out look. Just to me, it's kind of unattractive. You know, that's just my opinion. Some people might like it. I mean, the feet do look a little bit smaller and more proportionate, spread out like that, but it's just, I just really don't like the look of it. And like I was saying, like even on this figure too, I point out like this, the face is not symmetrical. Like this notch right here is too far back. It's just something I've been noticing on the Safari theropod figures. The face is not symmetrical. Like this eye back here is further back than this eye over here. Just something I noticed when I was taking out figures, you know, getting ready for comparisons. And lastly, we have a dinosaur that Yutyrannus could have possibly shared its habitat with. Here's the Safari Ltd Psittacosaurus. And why do I say possibly? Yutyrannus was discovered by some fossil dealers, and they were sold to a museum. So the exact locality of where Yutyrannus came from is up for debate. So they really can't tell exactly, you know, what animals, you know, share the environment with Yutyrannus. I think I read somewhere that it got to about 50 degrees in the area Yutyrannus lived in, and that's why you see a lot of, you know, artists' depiction of Yutyrannus kind of painted with that, you know, Arctic looking coat. So final thoughts on the Safari Ltd Yutyrannus. I really like this figure. When I first got this figure in about 5 years ago, I was just really blown away by the detail of the feathers on it, and I love how it was a very well balanced bipedal figure, and I just love all the scale detail, you know, the very little scales that we do see on this figure. Just the head looks really great in this figure. So yeah, I do highly recommend this Yutyrannus for your dinosaur collection, and the price is right on this figure. It's just about $10. I'll leave a link in the description so you can order this figure directly from Safari Ltd. There aren't many Yutyrannus figures available on the mass market. We obviously got this Safari one right here, and the always hotly debated Reborn Yutyrannus, especially among the dinosaur toy collecting community. That figure's always been debated since the second it was debuted. I love Reborn. I just never picked up that Yutyrannus. I was not a fan of that half feather look that they did with it. But good news, if you are a fan of feathered Tyrannosaurs, after the Beast of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series wraps up in about another year and a half, 2 years or so, David Silva is going to do a Tyrannosaurid series, and he just showed off artwork to the Yutyrannus, which will be part of that series, and this figure is going to look so cool. This is just artwork right now. I cannot wait to see an actual prototype of that figure. I'm just looking so forward to that series. I'm looking forward to anything that comes from Beast of the Mesozoic. It's just such a cool thing to watch. So that will do it for the review. Like I've been saying, I don't really have too much new stuff to review right now, but I do have something coming in from Namu. It's coming in from China, so it's taking forever to get here. So as soon as that gets here, I will be reviewing it, and hopefully I'll have some new stuff from Papo sometime in June to review. So as always, if you're enjoying the reviews on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously, and it's greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.